Previous episode, Chang Yun's gaze changed as she looked at the entrance of the Knifin residence. As if she saw an extremely terrifying aura, she seemed to be swallowed up and entered an unknown world. Chang Yun fearfully swallowed and asked, "Is there anyone who can do such an extraordinary thing in this world?" Chang Yun continued to think hard about the possibilities, but it made her even more stressed. The sect master and the others were already heading to the Knifin residence. Lu Xong didn't understand what Chang Yun was doing by shouting strangely like that. The sect master asked Lu Xong to let Chang Yun be, since Chang Yun was just as crazy as the master. The sect master asked them to leave immediately. He also didn't know what happened to the demon's sword that they had left at the Knifin residence a few days ago. Lu Xong knocked on the door of Knifin's residence once, but Knifin immediately opened the door as if he had been waiting for their arrival. With a smile, Knifin welcomed Lu Xong. Lu Xong also introduced the sect master and his wife as his parents. Chang Yun also barged her way into conversation. Knifin was understandably surprised to ask who Chang Yun was. Gently, Chang Yun introduced herself as Chang Yun, a good friend of Lu Xong. Lu's family were surprised as they hearing that words. How could Chang Yun follow them and just walk in? Knifin welcomed them into his yard. The only one who was impressed and surprised was Chang Yun, thinking that Shou Bai was a magical item. There was spiritual water and also a sofa squeezing her bum. Seeing Chang Yun's energetic behavior made Knifin praise Chang Yun, who was lively and also humorous. Knifin offered porridge he just made as well. Maybe they wanted to have some too. Chang Yun still had an impressed face and was excited because he had discovered that there was spiritual energy in the air in Knifin's residence. While Chang Yun was in the midst of her excitement, Lu Xong grabbed Chang Yun's arm and pulled her slightly away, asking Chang Yun not to overreact. It was normal to see what was in the expert's house. With an intimidating expression, Lu Xong asked Chang Yun not to talk anything about cultivation in front of the expert or it would become very dangerous. Getting intimidated by Lu Xong made Chang Yun immediately shrink. Not for long, Knifin, who was carrying a bowl of porridge, came out of the room. Knifin was surprised that Chang Yun became quiet suddenly. Chang Yun said that she was so tired and she wanted to rest, but in fact, Lu Xong stared at her fiercely. Chang Yun silently cursed herself as she was too reckless. She was too shocked and acted in a rude manner. She couldn't make Knifin angry. She had to make a good relationship with Knifin. Knifin then offered the porridge he had made. The sect master apologized for bothering Knifin, but she wouldn't eat the porridge. The same goes for Chang Yun, she won't eat it. Knifin understood and felt that they were being too modest, while Lu Xong had already scooped up the porridge in her bowl. She showed the porridge to the sect master, whether it was true that the sect master didn't want to eat it. The sect master was surprised by the porridge in Lu Xong's bowl that shone brightly. He understood that the porridge contained chai. He had made a wrong calculation. He turned his head and sang aloud if he wanted to eat the porridge. Unfortunately, the rest of the porridge had been fed to Blackie. Knifin asked once again what the sect master asking as he didn't hear clearly it, but the sect master didn't answer him and just turned into rock. Lu Xong gulped down the porridge that was in her bowl for a moment. Just by eating that porridge alone, Lu Xong had successfully broken through the intermediate stage basic cultivation. Lu Xong's successful breakthrough was truly a blessing for her parents, while Chang Yun was in complete shock. Lu Xong managed to just break through. Chang Yun was happy to have discovered an interesting fact about Knifin. Otherwise, according to Lu Xong's breakthrough speed, the status of Ling Yun Immortal Pavilion would have been threatened by the Wanjiang sect. Nibbling his thumb, Chang Yun tried to convince herself that she had to win over the expert. She couldn't let the Wanjiang sect get its own benefits. The sect master then told Knifin that Lu Xong had brought him a painting that Knifin had given him last time. He had greatly benefited from the painting, and today too Knifin gave him the precious porridge. To express their gratitude, he had brought a small gift. With a sense of pride himself, the sect master asked Knifin not to be hesitant. The sect master showed the contents of the gift box he had given, which was the protective crystal ball of the Wanjiang sect. Naturally, it surprised Chang Yun that the Wanjiang sect even gave such a valuable item. But the MC has different thought. He considered the crystal ball was not more than a shining stone. Knowing that Knifin only considered the protective jade as a shining stone, Chang Yun had no more words. But later, she laughed because Knifin only thought it was an ordinary item. She was happy that Knifin underestimated the gift form the sect master. Knifin accepted the gift and thanked him. He liked it because it could be used as a lamp at night. Lu Xong didn't care about that. It was all up to Knifin what you would use it for. Lu Xong looked at Chang Yun and asked if she came empty-handed. Hearing that question made Chang Yun really upset. She tried to cover her embarrassment and said that she would bring gifts for sure. Lingyam Pavilion had a huge amount of treasures, so there was no need to be hesitant. Seeing Chang Yun's uncontrolled reaction, Nifin tried to break the ice. He asked Cheng Yun to relax and think of it as her own home. The fact that Cheng Yun was willing to come to his house already made him happy. Hearing Nifin's defense made Cheng Yun blush. In her heart, she said that even though she was embarrassed, Nifin still helped her. Indeed, Nifin is a kind-hearted expert. Nifin also wanted to ask for help from them. There was a little girl who was scared and became mentally ill. He asked if they have a solution. Luoxiong seemed to know the girl. Is it Nanan? As usual, Cheng Yun's habit of interrupting appeared again. She insisted on answering him. Inside, Cheng Yun felt that this time was her chance to make up for the rudeness she had shown earlier. With a know-it-all sense, Cheng Yun explained. If Nanan was scared, it was possible that her soul was damaged. Yun Immortaling Pavilion has many soul-curing medicines. Hearing that made Nifin excited and trying to confirm it. Luoxiong was not to be outdone. She interrupted and argued Cheng Yun's solution, that Nanan was still very young and her soul power was also weak. She would not be able to use the medicines. Cheng Yun still tried to find another solution, but was also argued by Luoxiong until Cheng Yun couldn't do anything else. Since all her opinions were rejected by Luoxiong, she finally had no other solutions. Nifin personally asked Cheng Yun if she had any other solutions. Hesitantly, Cheng Yun said that when she was a child, she felt scared and fell into a coma. Her master told her stories at her bedside. But if Nifin was looking for a solution, her master was too overwhelmed at the moment and couldn't help either. Hearing that made the sect master Wan Jiang have a point to tease Lingyun Pavilion. Even Lingyun Pavilion master don't have a solution. Is that the only ability of Lingyun Pavilion? Cheng Yun made a look of not knowing what to answer, but Nifin suddenly said happily. He already had an idea from what Cheng Yun had said earlier. Nifin thanked her for her help. Cheng Yun initially doubted Nifin because there were many things to understand and the damaged soul was a very difficult wound to heal. Did Nifin really have a solution for that? With an innocent face, Nifin said that he only knew some of the ridiculous ways that humans seem to do. Nifin invited them to try it immediately. They were all ridiculously amazed, just as they had expected from the expert. Highly damaged souls could even be cured using ordinary human methods. The sect master, his wife, and Luoxiong were in discussion about going with Nifin, as it was a great blessing for them to be able to see and observe Nifin. Meanwhile, Nifin was saying goodbye to Xiao Bai, and even Xiao Bai had to take care of the house. Seeing that Nifin had left the residence, his sect master got ready to approach Nifin. The sect master asked for permission to go with Nifin. Of course, Nifin didn't refuse them. Soon, they had arrived at Aunt Zhang's residence to see Nanan's condition. Seeing Nifin's arrival along with a few people made Aunt Zhang a bit surprised. Aunt Zhang was grateful that Nifin had a way to cure Nanan, as she worsened by the day. Rightfully so, both of Nanan's eyeballs were squinted in the center. Seeing Nanan's severe condition made Luoxiong and Cheng Yun shocked. They couldn't believe that Nanan's condition was that bad. Luoxiong tried to calm Aunt Zhang down, telling her not to worry, as Master Nifin would help Nanan get back to normal. With a genuine smile, Nifin told Nanan she would tell her a story. He prayed that after Nanan heard the story, Nanan's eyes will be back to normal and would no longer be afraid of monsters. Nifin immediately mentioned the title of the story, which was Journey to the West or Sun Gokong. Hearing the story made Blackie realize something, which was the story of a book in their house. Nifin told a few parts at the beginning of the opening of the story. Blackie was a little doubtful whether Nifin could tell it from the beginning. If so, then he could sleep first. But Blackie was surprised and dropped off to sleep because he saw the enthusiastic immortal humans who were already crying with happiness just hearing the opening of the story. Nifin continued to talk about Sun Gokong for a while. The immortals, whether genuine immortals or not, thought that Nifin's words were the well-known words of the great truth. It was the universal law of progression. Blackie saw them and became pressured, and also that there were now many people who had come to hear the story of the journey to the West. Just after the opening, Nifin said in his heart with excitement, if he could convince Nanan that Demon King's son Gokong was an adorable, mischievous creature, then maybe she wouldn't be afraid of monsters anymore. But then he realized there were already many people sitting in front of him listening to the story of the journey to the West that he was telling. As expected, because the MC likes to be praised, so he was shy but happy because many people listened to his story. Finally, Nifin got into the core of the story. The core of the story was a monkey who led a group of monkeys in the mountain of flowers and fruits where they lived happily. Then, in order to pursue longevity, he sailed the seas on a bamboo raft and studied the arts with a master. After finally becoming a disciple of the master, Gokong asked if he could gain longevity after learning the art. Nifin's story is finished in the first part. A kid who heard the story was very fond of the monkey character, while the cultivators had their own perspective. They cried many times hearing the story and said it was the voice of the great truth. They also thought that Nifin was telling his personal experience. Nifin then finished the story that day and would continue the story in the next part. Meanwhile, Nephin felt excited and inside. He thought that if this was his debut as a storyteller, he would definitely become very famous. Nephin also saw Nanan's condition. He didn't know if the story would work on Nanan, but it seemed to work. Nanan had already returned to her senses and was no longer cross-eyed. The people lost track of time, then left. The sect master asked Nephin if he could continue the story the next day. With hopeful faces, they said in their hearts if Nephin's story was really detailed and a true story. If it wasn't Nephin's personal experience, perhaps it was the story of a person with the highest authority in the immortal world. The sect master was also unsure whether those lower-class, ordinary cultivators deserved to hear such a secret. Nephin replied that if they could listen to it tomorrow, they could bring a chair during the story session, so that they wouldn't suffer from tingling while seated. Afterward, the sect master, his wife, as well as Lu Xong left to return to the sect and would return tomorrow, while Cheng Yun was still there. She called Nephin shyly, apologizing for not being able to help. Nephin was surprised and felt that this wasn't the case. He came up with the solution after considering Cheng Yun's previous words, and Cheng Yun can come back tomorrow to listen to the rest of the story. Even if she wants, Cheng Yun can personally come to his house often. In fact, in his heart, Nephin invited Cheng Yun to come to his residence just to build a network, because he heard that Lingyan Pavilion was the strongest. It would be an advantage for him, but Cheng Yun interpreted it differently. She burst into tears because the expert Nephin cared about her so much. With a passionate expression, Cheng Yun said that she was ready. She, as Nephin's mistress, would definitely come back to listen to the rest of the story. After everyone left, Nephin also said goodbye to Anjang to go back. On the way, Nephin was stopped by someone who asked for Nephin's time for a moment, someone who looked like a scholar. The young man introduced himself as Meng Liang. Meng Liang praised Nephin's story, which was like a thunderous roar in the distance. Because the MC likes to be praised, so Nephin made a very happy but pretentious face. However, Meng Liang was curious about something. He wanted Nephin as a master to enlighten him. He wondered if there was a way to live long. Nephin was confused by the question, but Meng Liang was even more enthusiastic to hear Nephin's answer. Meng Liang said that he had been looking for a way to live a long life for a long time. He searched all the books but found nothing, until he heard Nephin's story. Nephin must know how to have a long life. Meng Liang's questions and words hit his ears so hard that Nephin was in cold sweat, confused about how to answer them. Nephin felt that even he was not an immortal and was just an ordinary human. Nephin asked another question about whether Meng Liang had ever felt crazy from reading a book. Instead of taking it personally, Meng Liang was honored. He was always immersed in books. Even though he read a lot of books, he still didn't know anything. Nephin was stunned and said to herself that Meng Liang was a fool. Nephin sighed. If from time immemorial, no one had seen a long life that died quietly. Within 10 years, spring passed and fall came. Ages can show birth, old age, illness, and even death. For thousands of years, the passing of dynasties can be regretted. If the immortals try to use a momentary glance to look at millions of years ago, it would be like taking the shadow of the moon in a well. Nephin tapped Meng Liang's shoulder and said that it was better for Meng Liang to focus on the present and act on his own. As he walked away, Nephin said that was all he could say. For a moment, silence engulfed Meng Liang as he watched Nephin walk away from him, and then Meng Liang burst into tears just remembering Nephin's words for him to focus on the present. Meng Liang felt that they were words of great wisdom. Meanwhile, Nephin was completely terrified and drenched in cold sweat as he quickly ran to avoid Meng Liang. Nephin felt that if he couldn't and wouldn't offend an idealist, he should get out of there. Moving on Wanjiang's sect's Sword Mountain, a young man was climbing Mount Wanjin along with his master. He asked when will they arrive at Wanjiang's sect. That young guy is curious. The Wanjiang sect was challenged by a sword demon. It should have been extinct. Why should they rush there? Zhao was the master's name. Master Zhao said that he and sect master Wanjiang are sword cultivator. They both had been fighting discreetly for over a century. Now sect master Wanjiang has been horribly killed at the hands of a sword demon. Other than him, who else would bury his body? Suddenly, Master Zhao stopped when he turned to look ahead. It was the sect master Wanjiang along with his wife and also Lu Xong who were in the middle of talking about the story from Nephin. Seeing the sect master or Master Bai made Master Zhao surprised. Shouting that there was a fake corpse upon seeing Master Zhao's arrival, the Wanjin sect master or Master Bai asked the reason for his visit. Still shocked to death, Master Zhao shouted how Master Bai was still not dead, even though he planned to take Master Bai's corpse, but Master Bai was still alive and well. Master Bai should have died sooner so he could pick up the corpse. Master Bai heard Master Zhao's good intention to take his corpse and thanked him, but not if he was told to die. Master Zhao calmed down and wondered if Master Bai had escaped when the sword demon came. Master Bai was a little cocky while showing his cultivation level. He said he wouldn't run away. Master Zhao should have a look first. Master Zhao was surprised that Master Bai had already achieved the stage of out-of-body experience. As usual, Master Bai's personality showed out seeing Master Zhao's shock, making Master Bai show its cockiness even more with a ridiculous expression. Master Bai said perhaps the Wanjiang sect was blessed by God. The sword demon didn't flinch before him, and Master Zhao shouldn't envy him too much because everyone had their own destiny. Nobody's envious though. Master Zhao sighed and paid his respects to Master Bai as a senior, since Master Bai was now at a higher cultivation level than him. Looking at Master Zhao, who wasn't even ashamed of himself, Master Bai finally told him what had happened and how he was able to have an out-of-body experience. He would bring Master Zhao over to listen to the incredible story tomorrow. The next day, Nifin was welcomed by many people who came to hear his story. In fact, many people had already reserved seats to get a comfortable position to listen to Nifin's story. As Nifin walked towards An Zhang's house, he was stopped by Meng Liang, who immediately rushed over to him. With great excitement, Meng Liang said that he had been waiting for Nifin for a long time. Nifin tried not to care, and Meng Liang still followed him and even kept saying things that made Nifin even more pressured. Hearing Meng Liang's nonsensical talk, Nifin was at a loss as to what to do. When he saw an opportunity to leave, Nifin immediately ran away from Meng Liang. Long story short, Nifin now had arrived at Aunt Zhang's house, where it turned out that there were already a lot of people there. Even Master Bai and the others were already there. Nifin noticed the faces of people who were still new to him, which were Master Zhao and his student. Master Zhao and his student were terrified seeing Nifin, even trembling. Nifin gave Master Zhao his handkerchief to wipe out their sweat. Nifin asked if Master Zhao was okay. Taking the handkerchief, Master Zhao thanked him and said that he was all good. But inside he didn't feel fine, he was pressured. Even Pavilion immortaling Saint Yun had become a fan of Nifin. Master Zhao and his disciples were struck mentally on the spot. Nifin also began the story about Sun Gokong, who learned from the master. Nifin continued to deliver several lines of the story, which immediately made people amazed. Even though Nifin's story contained a way to achieve long life, but they were unable to understand even a word. Nifin had been story told until it suddenly started raining. Everyone rushed back to their homes. They would be here to listen to the story tomorrow. Master Bai and Master Zhao were still mesmerized by Nifin's majestic words, while Nifin was annoyed that he didn't even have an umbrella with him. The rain suddenly poured down heavily. Nifin shouted for the rain to stop right now. Master Zhao and Master Bai, shocked to death hearing Nifin shout to stop the rain. Although the context was that Nifin was joking, but the two men immediately took it seriously because they thought Nifin was an expert of experts. Was Nifin trying to persuade God to stop the rain? Moved to Nifin's residence, Shobai and Blackie were shocked to see Nifin's pet golden fish flying away. Shobai and Blackie were very concerned. But the goldfish that looked like a dragon was doing something to the cloudy sky. Scene returns to Nifin. Suddenly the rain had stopped and the sky became very clear. Nifin was truly blessed with luck, and that made people misunderstand him. Nifin was very happy to say that he did a good deed. How could the rain completely stop with just one sentence? He thought even God couldn't stand the sight of him getting wet. Master Bai and Lu Xong were startled to death. Did Nifin say that he wasn't immortal? Looking at the scene right now, even a pig wouldn't believe that Nifin wasn't an immortal. Afterward, Meng Liang approached Nifin again. He came very close to Nifin. Meng Liang said that he had already written down all the stories Nifin had told. If Nifin didn't mind, he would publish the book. Nifin, who felt Meng Liang was too close, stutteredly said that it wasn't too bad an idea and asked Meng Liang to stay away from him. After getting Nifin's approval, Meng Liang wanted to credit Nifin as the author, but Nifin objected. The book was written by him, so it should be credited to Wu Meng Liang instead. Hearing his name mentioned, Meng Liang puzzled, but then he realized something and ran away immediately, leaving Nifin behind. He shouted that he would be back soon and edit the book right away. Master Bai and the others became more and more impressed with Nifin's attitude of not accepting favors from people and not necessarily doing so as expected of the expert. Nifin then bid farewell to them all. He had spent 2 days trying to help Nanan, so he didn't have time to greet them properly. Nifin asked that next time they could come personally to his house and be his guests, then they could go hunting and eat together. The medium hunting game is hunting as usual, hunting wild animals using arrows or whatever. But again, the misunderstanding will never leave these immortals. Master Zhang told Lu Xong what kind of beast Nifin was referring to. Could Lu Xong explain what he meant? With a serious face as well, Lu Xong said if she was the first person to know Nifin, of course she understood what he meant. Master Bai said the thing that happened before. The leopard monster that injured Nanan severely and was hunted by Nifin. It must be due to the fact that Nifin's anger still hadn't calmed down. Nifin still held a deep grudge against monsters. Lu Wuxiang continued. It could seem like Master Nifen wanted them to come with a few monsters. It also told them that the wisdom of the Great Truth story must not be neglected, they must do something. Hearing all that, Cheng Yun interrupted if it was easy enough. He would find some big demons and send them to Nifen. Lu Wuxiang was already hyped up. He said if he knew the place of the tiger demon came with Yuan Yi's rank, should they start from him? Cheng Yun was even more enthusiastic and would do it right away. Master Bai was a little pessimistic because what they would target was the Demon King, but Cheng Yun was determined because in order to satisfy Nifen, even just the Demon King was not a difficult thing. He would send the hunted animal nicely to Nifen. Whether it was a demon monster or a tiger demon king, it would start with that. Moving hundreds of miles away, Tiger Mountai, a tiger was sitting on his throne. Above his head is the word death, which made his people ask what is above their king's head. Back to Nifen, who was hanging his clothes to dry and heard somebody knock the door of his residence. He opened it right away, which turned out to be Master Bai and Master Zhao bringing 3 monsters. A giant type tiger, a 3-tailed lion, and a 2-headed wolf. Master Bai paid his respects and offered if it was a small gift to show his respect for Nifen. Master Zhao also said he didn't hunt much, but everything he got was just fresh from the jungle. Holding the tail of the tiger and filled with anxiety, eternally Nifen said if that had happened in his former world, he would have had to spend his entire life in prison for hunting protected animals. But all of a sudden, Nifen's expression turned excited because crossing the realm and coming to the immortal world was indeed the best. Nifen dragged the 3 monsters inside and asked them to wait. He was going to prepare some cooking ingredients. Nifen cheerfully thought of what he should do. Since those cultivators brought him a lot of gifts, he should at least entertain them. After thinking for a while, Nifen finally came up with an idea. He was going to make shabu hot pot. All the preparations were quickly completed. Nifen thanked Xiao Bai for being quick with the preparations. Nifen looked over to invite the guests to eat it right away, but Nifen was stunned by the people's expressions. The 4 people were really like they had seen the light of heaven, giving Nifen expressions of great admiration. With just the uneven shape of the meat, the perfectly square cake, even Master Bai was surprised to see the pot used to boil the soup. The pot was in the shape of yin and yang. It was an image of Tai Chi. Master Bai and Master Zhou both proudly said to themselves that they had learned something. Nifen, who saw the 2 of them, mumbled to himself, even though it was just a stewing pot. The cultivators are indeed interesting. Nifen quickly told them to eat and showed them how to eat it. Nifen demonstrated, followed by Lu Wuxiang and Cheng Yun. As the food filled their mouths, the sensation of a volcanic explosion erupted in their mouths and they felt like they were undressed and reborn. Master Bai, who felt that he was old and could not eat meat, picked vegetables as his food. When he put it in his mouth, Master Bai instantly tasted the flavor of the taoist in the vegetables. Nifen saw that they liked the vegetables, saying that he grew the vegetables himself. Master Bai asked Master Zhou to eat them right away with a fierce glare. Master Bai said that vegetables were good for health, but that wasn't the point. The vegetables contained a lot of spiritual chai, so Master Zhao should take the opportunity to eat as much as possible. Master Zhao understood. He truly felt blessed to have the opportunity to eat vegetables at Nifen's residence. He assumed Nifen was a superhuman. He didn't know Nifen was just an ordinary guy. Nifen and the others continued talking and eating the dishes on their table. Moving to a forest near the mountains, 2 very pretty white foxes were seen walking together. The little fox warned the big fox how dangerous it was to transform. A transformation had to go through a catastrophe and several thunderstorms. If she didn't take care of it, her soul would pass away. The big white fox was the sister of the little fox. The sister currently had 7 tails and the little one had 5 tails. The little fox kept telling her sister not to transform because her sister's cultivation years would vanish and start all over again. With sadness, the little one said how after her sister transformed, she was found by some ugly old guy. Hearing her sister who said bad things, the elder sister was upset and asked not to say anything. After reassuring once again, the elder sister left immediately because there was no more time left. The 7-tailed fox immediately ran towards a place. She mumbled. Of course, she realized that the transformation was risky, but the transformation had to be completed, because only if she transformed then she could stay by the master's side and serve him and return the master's kindness that had saved her. In the distance, a huge thunderbolt was seen striking something. Nifen, who was carrying firewood, was really startled. He didn't expect that in broad daylight there would be such a huge lightning and even rain. It really made him upset. The flashes of lightning struck several times, shocking Nifen to the core. Now Nifen had found a cave to protect himself. He was really scared to death hearing those tremendous thunderbolts. He thought that the apocalypse would come soon. However, Nifen realized something. The lightning only struck in one place many times. Elsewhere, 2 people taking shelter from the rain realized something from the lightning. They knew that there was a 1,000-year-old fox demon transforming. They determined to find the transformed fox. If they got the demon core, it would help them pass through cultivation quickly. Back in the middle of the forest, a very beautiful young woman with pink hair and bright green eyes covered only in a transparent cloth is looking at the surrounding area. If you notice, that woman is a 7-tailed fox that has been transformed into a human. Knifen popped out of the bushes, who was nagging because his firewood was wet. He suddenly saw a very beautiful woman naked in front of him. Knifen covered his face but not his eyes. He was shocked to death that there was a very beautiful woman in the middle of the jungle. The fox woman saw Knifen and was thankful that after her transformation she was directly found by her savior Knifen. She recalled that 3 years ago she was a 7-tailed fox. After a bad encounter and being injured by cultivators, she was blessed that after her journey, the one who came to help was Knifen. But it wasn't just her wound that was healed. It only took her 3 years to grow her 9th tail thanks to Knifen's help. Knifen carried the fox woman behind and said if the fox woman was still very weak, he would take her for treatment. Indeed, the MC is good at finding opportunities in the narrowness. It turned out that the leaving of Knifen and the fox woman was noticed by the younger sister of the fox. He was very angry at Knifen. Because of Knifen, her sister had been willing to turn into a human and lose her cultivation. Her sister will also not be able to live for more than a month because she has changed her form. She would make sure that before her sister dies, she would send Knifen to death first. Because of that incident, the immortal cultivators who were hundreds of miles away had already realized that a creature had undergone an unusual transformation and they rushed out to search. Seeing who saw the cultivators going into the forest realized that it was the direction of the expert's residence. Seeing didn't know what motive the fox demon that had cultivated for thousands of years surrendered and turned into a human. Seeing was also worried because the core of the demon was very precious. It would attract a lot of people's attention. If the situation became too chaotic, she was worried that it would affect Knifen's rest time. Sean was furious because if Knifen couldn't rest and sleep, then Knifen's health would be compromised. To see her daughter acting weirdly made her mother confused. Sean still didn't let that happen. Suddenly, Sean was surprised by the arrival of his father, who was a king of the Jianlong dynasty. King Lu said that because Sean informed him about the expert's actions, he felt that when the expert chose the Jianlong dynasty, it was a blessing for their heavenly dynasty. If the expert was heard by others, then it was their fault for not taking good care of the expert. The king of Lu was afraid that if the master left, then the blessings of the Jianlong dynasty would be taken away as well. In all seriousness, the king of Lu asked them to leave immediately because anyone who interrupted the master's spare time must be gone. Moved to Master Bai and Master Zhao, who were both floating in the air. Master Bai congratulated Master Zhao for successfully passing through to the out-of-body experience stage. Now Master Zhao would become an immortal again. Master Zhao said that it was thanks to the vegetables he ate from the expert. Master Zhao and also Master Bai are both obsessed with protecting Knifen. They were aware of the current situation that many people were troubling the expert's peace, so they would compete who could get rid of the most flies. The meaning of flies is the intruder. Back to Knifen, who was already at his residence and taking care of the fox woman. As Knifen was comforting the fox woman and saying that his residence was remote and no one would disturb her, suddenly there was a thunderous sound that made them silent immediately. Knifen tried to convince her once again that the place was safe and away from danger. The fox woman smiled brightly. She made sure to listen to Master Knifen. Knifen continued to say anything, which the woman answered with her willingness. When Knifen asked the fox woman for her name, the fox woman also left it to Knifen. Knifen was surprised because she didn't even have a name. Should it also be him who gave her name? The fox woman asked to be given a name by Knifen. Meanwhile, Knifen was lost in his own imagination. He assumed that the fox woman was a servant of the rich family, born without the right to life, miserable, and didn't even have a name. She tried very hard to escape and had no home to return to and was seriously robbed and wounded by others. Knifen immediately felt that today he had saved the woman, so that meant he was the savior. Based on the development of the plot, if he treated the woman well, the woman might repay him with her body, and they would live together in a legal way. He always found a way in any opportunities. With an expression of a gentleman, Knifen told the fox woman not to be afraid. No matter what the woman had experienced in the past, it didn't matter. From now on, he would protect the woman with all of his heart and soul, and he named her Day. She was happy with the name she was given. When Day was about to say something, Knifen had already gone out to prepare the medicines. Knifen was on cloud 9. He had never expected to be in the same space with a woman. He was really nervous, his heart was about to burst because of that. But Knifen didn't want to think too much about it. He hurried to find the medicine. In the forest, Master Bai and Master Zhao were thankful for Cheng Yun's help. If it wasn't for Cheng Yun, they wouldn't have been able to resist the ants that were bothering the expert. As they were bragging about their successful job of getting rid of the small fish that were bothering the expert, suddenly there was a voice asking who the fish were, and it turned out to be the King of Lu, who surprised Master Bai and the others. The Holy King of Lu even showed up personally. The three of them then greeted the King of Lu. The King of Lu, who saw them, said in his heart, although each setting has its own formation, they are all under the Qianlong dynasty. Although the King of Lu was not very good at martial arts, but the King of Lu was a pure-blooded descendant, and he was the highest-ranking person in the Qianlong dynasty. They could not believe that the King of Lu left the palace and came to the forest by himself. The King of Lu was also immediately hit mentally by Master Bai and Master Zhao. He was asking in his heart, since when did the two of them pass through to the stage of out-of-body experience, and since when was out-of-body experience easy to pass through? When Xian saw his father, he understood and told his father that it must be all thanks to the help of the expert. King Lu would keep a stiff expression hearing that without reacting. Master Bai agreed with Xian's words. Master Nifen helped the Wanjiang sect in directing the sword demons, while Master Zhao said that Master Nifen served him a hot pot, helped him in making a successful breakthrough, and prolonged his life. While Cheng Yun said that Master Nifen had shown him the wisdom of the great truth of the journey to the west. He was lucky enough to hear it. Hearing that they were all getting help from the expert, King Lu felt very envious, but since he was a king, he couldn't say so. King Lu, with the expression and authority of a king, suggested them to meet Master Nifen. Maybe there was something they could do. They finally arrived at Nifen's residence. Raja Lu realized that the jade that was hanging at the entrance was the jade he gave to Xian. Whether Master Bai and Master Zhao intended to mock the king or not, they said it was Phoenix Jade. No wonder a phoenix flew out of the jade before. It was a decayed stone that had been transformed into a treasure. The mocking annoyed the king, and he stormed out of Nifen's house. Another misunderstanding happened. He thought that the jade pendant must be considered too cheap by the expert. That's why the expert didn't invite him when something good happened. That must be hated by the expert. He had to pay for it. Suddenly, Nifen came out from inside and found them gathered at his door. Nifen asked what kind of purpose brought them all back. Master Bai said that they just met by chance at the foothill and ended up at Nifen's residence. When the King of Lu noticed Nifen's presence, he immediately fixed his expression and greeted Nifen. Stian introduced her father, who was a king of the Qianlong dynasty. Of course, Nifen immediately became pale because a national leader came to see him. Both of them immediately bowed to each other. As Nifen passed inside, he said he had a favor and wanted to ask for advice from all of them. King Lu asked not to be too polite to them. He just tell Nifen what the problem is, they will definitely help. Cheng Yun agreed to the king's words. Whether it was a cultivator or a monster that attacked for fun, whoever dared to disturb Nifen, they would surely kill him without mercy. Nifen laughed a little and continued to express his gratitude that with their protection, he would be very safe for now. Nifen opened his room door and showed them something he would ask for help with. A lightning just struck a girl. He wanted them to help in figuring out on how Dai could be helped effectively. The sight of Dai made people shocked. Isn't that the nine-tailed fox demon that turned into a human? Seeing those people made Dai scared and hid in the corner. Surely Nifen was worried, asking what happened. Dai bluntly said that they all came to arrest her. Of course, Nifen asked Master Bai and his friends if they had come to arrest Dai. They answered in unison that they had not come to arrest Dai. Master Bai and Master Zhao looked at each other. They chatted silently. If Nifen misinterpreted it and thought they had come to capture Dai, it would mean the end of the world for them. They couldn't let the master upset and misunderstand them. They all put on their best expressions, saying that they were good people and friends of Nifen. They told Dai not to be afraid. Nifen told them imaginary things about Dai's origins, but they all seemed not to care because everything Nifen said was the truth to them, even if it was a lie. They will still believe him anyway. Despite the fact that they already knew that Dai was a fox demon, they still agreed to Nifen's imaginations about Dai, who was a maid who was mistreated and ran away from her master. Nifen asked for help to heal Dai, who was injured from a lightning strike. They of course couldn't heal her because Dai was not injured by a lightning strike, but it was the result of a demon transforming into a human. Nifen gave Dai a bowl of medicine to drink, gently handing it to Dai. When everyone saw the medicine Nifen gave Dai, everyone was surprised. Cheng Yun felt that the fox was destined to die, but with just a bowl of medicine, Dai instantly recovered. That really turned the world upside down. After taking the medicine given by Nifen, Dai's body shone due to the effects of the medicine. Because Nifen did not understand how the world worked, he only believed that if beautiful women took medicine, they could shine. Cheng Yun then offered Nifen that he had many kinds of medicine in Yun's immortaling pavilion that could heal Dai's wounds, but was cut off by Master Bai, who offered remedies for his sect. The same went for Master Zhao, who was keen to help provide medicine for Dai. In the meantime, King Lu was looking serious as he called Nifin. He was going back to the palace to bring some medicine, but he asked Nifin to accept what he was about to give. King Lu was very upset that the gift given last time, jade, had turned out to be a wrong one, but he would make sure to offer his national treasure this time. He had to recover his image. As ever, Nifin, with his innocent face, accepted the box given to him by the King of Lu. Nifin tried to open the box, but what came out of it was the aura of a golden dragon. The dragon asked in a heavy tone what was the reason for them to bother him who was taking a rest. Everyone looked surprised to see the dragon, because it was the national treasure Dragon Ball of the Qianlong Heavenly Dynasty. Without any reaction, Nifin looked up to see the dragon with an innocent expression. However, the dragon mentally looked at Nifin's existence and went back into the Dragon Ball. Things was quiet for a while, but the King of Lu was in disbelief, completely shocked to see the dragon inside the Dragon Ball hiding just looking at Nifin. Cheng Yun said the soul of the ancient fire dragon always showed a terrifying character, but just by seeing Nifin in an instant and then acting like a coward and hiding. The King of Lu was seen almost completely dead. Nifin was amazed to see a dragon coming out of the ball. He had never seen a dragon. He innocently asked if the dragon was spitting fire. King Lu confirmed it. It can really spit fire. Nifin tried to persuade the dragon in the ball to show itself and spit out fire, but because the dragon was so afraid of Nifin, he only released small fireworks from the ball where it was hiding. Nifin was very grateful to King Lu and the masters because last time they were specifically Master Bai gave him a light bulb, and this time they gave him a flashlight. The cultivators had strange things. The Dragon Ball given by King Lu was only considered a flashlight by Nifin, so they couldn't really have many arguments and just agreed to what Nifin wanted to say. Nifin felt bad about the help they always gave. He promised to do his best to return their kindness. Not sure what they thought. When they heard Nifin's words that he wanted to return the favor, they were immediately surprised. Obviously, they did not refuse but just agreed, because they knew that if they refused, it would be a big loss for themselves. Nifin thanked King Lu and the others once again for their help. King Lu and the others will leave soon. King Lu excitedly said that they would prepare the necessary medicine immediately. They all leaped away from Nifin's residence with full responsibility to satisfy Nifin. Moving on to Cheng Yun, who had arrived at Immortal Lingyun's pavilion. An elder greeted Cheng Yun, who had returned. Cheng Yun straight away ordered to bring all the medicines from the pavilion. The elder said that the pavilion had so many medicines. If she wanted to take all the medicines, it would need several months to collect them. Cheng Yun agreed. She was overexcited and not thinking clearly. In that case, she would just take all the best ones. Cheng Yun's request made the elder even more shocked and fainted. At the same time, at Nifin's house, Nifin was showing Day the yard where he had planted some plants and he was taking care of it carefully. Although it was not very spacious, but it was enough for the two of them. Nifin then introduced Blackie. Even though Blackie was not from any dog species and did not have any abilities, Blackie was very obedient. Blackie, of course, put on his best smiley face because in Blackie's eyes, Day was a beautiful fox. Xiaobai was also introduced. Xiaobai's job was to take care of the yard and cook. Day could freely ask Xiaobai for help. Xiaobai welcomed Day, who called her Miss. To hear Xiaobai addressing Day as Mrs. makes Nifin act wrong. He asked Xiaobai not to say that kind of nonsense, but Nifin is actually very happy. Indirectly, Day was his wife. Meanwhile, behind Nifin's back, Day didn't react to the situation and just put on a dark face. Day was really hit mentally. She was sweating cold. She didn't expect that Xiaobai, the magical artifacts, and the deity dog were just called ordinary animals. A yard planted with spiritual plants, is that normal? She was expecting to repay Nifin's kindness by changing her form into a human and having a child from Nifin. But considering her current condition, she didn't know how she could repay Nifin's kindness. Day asked if she could really live with Nifin. Sure enough, Nifin welcomed Day gladly. If Day didn't mind, the house would also be Day's forever home. This made Day immediately bow in gratitude, and she promised to take good care and serve Nifin forever. The sudden sight of Day bowing made Nifin surprised. Nifin crouched down to look at Day, saying that Day did not need to serve anyone because they were equal. Unfortunately, Day did not know what an equal was. While holding Day's hand, Nifin asked Day not to worry if Day didn't know. The first thing he would teach her was to play chess. Day didn't understand what he meant by playing chess, but it seemed Nifin misunderstood. Nifin thought Day didn't know what the game was. Nifin said it was chess being played. Day had a strange expression, saying in her heart if she knew it was chess, but why suddenly play chess? But she didn't dare to ask Nifin's decision to play chess. Nifin explained that the chessboard was an equal system for everyone, regardless of who sat on either side. Whether it is a king playing with a homeless person or a teacher with a student on either side of the chessboard, there is no hierarchy. But even after a few explanations, Day still didn't get the meaning. The point was that Naifan said that playing games was the best way to improve relationships. He would explain it to Dai. Naifan showed her how to play. He moved one of the pieces in the chess, and suddenly something happened to Dai. In Dai's subconscious, she felt like she was on a chessboard. Whenever Naifan moved a piece, Dai's soul felt like it was being hit and crushed by the pieces. After she felt the extraordinary thrill, Dai understood that it was the truth of playing chess. However, the truth Dai understood was different from what Naifan meant, and there was another misunderstanding. Dai felt too careless and failed to avoid the catastrophe during the transformation. That is why Naifan used chess to teach her the truth. Naifan's generosity continued to grow. Naifan looked cheerful as he explained everything, but was surprised to see Dai crying. Naifan asked Dai why she was crying, but Dai didn't answer.